I had a request to wear the Dark Lord mask. So here we go. Welcome to the Darkstream. Welcome, Galactic News, boxday.blogspot.com. Anyhow, looks like we got a better situation here now. So I'll see if I can get this off without damaging anything. Yeah. Someone requested the Dark Lord mask, so you know, what the heck. Yeah, I'm definitely not as pretty as Brittany. So sorry about that. One of the Dread Oak had that made in Venice, which was pretty cool. It's actually the cover from my book, The Altar of Hate, which is fun. So, anyhow, big day today. If you've been following Galactic News, then you've seen there's been an awful lot going on with Milo. It was disappointing in some ways to see him step down from Breitbart, but I think it's a good move. This is something that he's been working on for a while. It's not a sudden. It's not coming from nowhere. I don't believe that he was pushed. I think that it was just time for him to move on, and that's not a bad thing. Breitbart at this point in time was not important, was not doing anything particularly for him. So, and we'll be following that. I've talked to Milo this morning, and so he's doing all right. I think that he's extremely grateful for all the support that he's been seeing, both from people like Mike Cernovich and some of the a lot of the other folks, Rehash, etc., me, whatever, as well as the people who are not public, who have been sending him all kinds of messages on Facebook, who've been emailing him, who've been tweeting their support for him. I know that's meant an awful lot to him. And so, being someone who has been in the center of an SJW attack like that myself, obviously on a much smaller scale, I know how important it is to feel like you're being supported and to feel like that people are there for you. Yeah, the connection should be better. I just upgraded it, so I think we're in good shape from the connection side. And my upload speed went up by something like 40 times, so it should be fast enough for this. How's the quality? I can't get these questions. Will we publish his book? We will definitely publish Dangerous if Milo and Team Milo and his agent decide that that's the way they want to go. We know we can do a great job with it. We know that we can. We know that we can give it a better cover. We know that we can give it excellent global distribution. But there's also other factors involved. We pay really good royalties, but we don't pay particularly high advances, and so it's really up to Milo and his team. And we've talked about it. We've made it very clear that we want to publish it, and it would certainly be a feather in our cap. But he will do what he wants to do, and and I know that he knows that if he goes with us, that we will have his back, and we've already run it through our distributor, and they're absolutely fine with it as well. As they noted, they publish a whole bunch of different editions of Mein Kampf, and so dangerous is hardly controversial by their standards. So I think that I am standing. I think I'm more comfortable doing these standing. So yeah, the volume is my iPad Mini. It doesn't work terribly well. But I mean, like Andrew said, he's had enough of the alt cucks broadcasting their disavowal of Milo. It's bullshit. It's cowardly. It's also attempting to capitalize on the misfortune of another. And so, a number of people have said to me, you're an evangelical Christian, how can you possibly be supporting, somebody who leads a immoral, degenerate lifestyle and that sort of thing. And, I point out that, I used to be on Wax Trax Records. It doesn't get much more degenerate than that. And so, you can't, if we were all innocent, we wouldn't have to repent. If we were all good people, then we wouldn't have any need for forgiveness. Now, I'm not saying that anybody is, that Milo or anybody else is going to change their ways today or tomorrow or something. But there's certainly, after I wrote The Irrational Atheist, a couple of years later, I got an email from a woman that I used to date, and she said that the fact that this book exists is proof of the existence of God. So you never know what's going to come of a person. You never know what they're going to become. And Milo is still relatively young. We don't know yet what he is going to be. We don't know yet what he's going to become. And I think that he is going to become, as a result of this experience, I think he's going to become a stronger and more effective spokesman for the alt-right, for sort of the alternative right as opposed to the alt-right, because Cernovich and I were talking about this, and we've both been punched in the face repeatedly. We know what it's like. Milo is charming. He usually doesn't have to. He doesn't usually get punched in the face. He just evades everything with a clever comment. I think this is the first time that he's ever taken a serious direct hit from his enemies. He's dealt with failures and that sort of thing, but this sort of coordinated attack, effective attack that actually did some damage. It is a psychological blow, and to his credit, he came back strong, and I watched his press conference. I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't quite the warpath that Rehaash's recovery press conference was. That was a thing of beauty, but that was also a very, very different situation. I think that Milo, for his own reasons, felt that he needed to directly address that issue. I think that he felt genuine remorse over the way that his comments could be construed, and he made it very clear who he was apologizing to. He was not apologizing to the media. He was not contrite or asking forgiveness from the media. And so, you know, I would say that, you know, people need to understand that it's, when I say don't apologize, I'm not, in SJWs always lie, I'm not saying that you can't ever let the words "I'm sorry" leave your mouth. You know, if you are genuinely sorry for something, you know, you're not being pressured into doing that. It's okay. It's okay to do that. And remember, you know, he got up there. I mean, he was what he was apologizing for was just, you know, basically being flippant and possibly having a negative effect on some of his fellow victims. And you know, that's something that I don't think that I am suited to. I'm not in any position to judge that, and I won't. So the important thing is that he was absolutely not backing down to the media. He was not asking them to forgive him. He was not asking them to let him back in to their good graces, because he knew that it wasn't going to happen. And so, you know, when you're doing a SJW driven apology, you are not telling the media "fuck you," you know. So that, you know, it was a solid performance. I was personally amused by the fact that he asked, you know, one or two more questions. I think 6 or 7 times, but yeah, you know, Milo's going to come back strong from this. He's got tons of support. He doesn't need to be held up, you know, by Breitbart or anyone else. And you know, he knows what he's doing. He's a unique talent. But one thing that I think that we can definitely take from this is that this is why talking to the media is usually a bad idea. You know, it's usually a terrible idea. If somebody who is as uniquely talented as Milo can get himself in that kind of situation just by talking to a journalist or whatever, you know, there's no way that it's a good idea for, you know, lesser talents like you or me or anyone else. And so, you know, and that's why I'm just going to avoid doing that. You know, I'm going to talk to you guys here on Gab TV. I'm going to talk to Stefan Molyneux, but other than that, you know, I may do the occasional. I think we're talking about doing an audiobook. It's the anthology that I contributed to, the one that has been done very well, that Jason Rennie published, and he's asked me to appear on the live stream. You know, I'll probably do that. Super subversive, but there's no benefit to appearing on all these different, you know, little podcasts and shows and that sort of thing. You know, I mean, it's okay to team up. You know, Brittany asked me to appear on her show or podcast or whatever, and I'll do that. But you know, you have to go in there with people that understand that it's part of their job to protect you. You know, when I'm doing an interview, I don't talk very much. I like to ask questions and let the other person talk, and I don't do gotcha stuff. You know, I've had people on that are not particularly you know, that are not particularly on my side, or I'm not on their side. But you know, that's okay. You know, I'm not there to try to get them. I just want to, you know, get their perspective, let them talk about what they want to talk about. But the problem is that you know, what we saw out of Rogan is that what did Rogan do for Milo? He did nothing. You know, he led Milo into talking about this thing that you know, generated all this heat, And then he did nothing. He didn't come out and defend him at all. Now, I don't think that Rogan was involved in setting it up. It was too far ahead and whatnot. But absolutely, if I had been, if someone had come on to my show and then came under this kind of pressure as a result of comments that they had made in an interview with me, I would have absolutely come out and defended them. And I think that people need to remember that, and just not that Rogan is likely to invite me to appear on one of his shows, and not that I would anyhow. Not that I would have anyhow, but now I wouldn't even consider it. Those are not the kind of people that I want to be associated with. And so, the more that we learn about this, the more that we understand that Stefan Molyneux's perspective is correct, which is just don't talk to the media. Don't talk to people outside your circle of trust. And so, it's a good lesson. It's a good lesson for all of us. We need to be able to, in addition to building our own platforms, we also need to be able to oh, come on, don't give me this. Rogan's just a guy who likes to talk to people and learn. Settle down. No. Rogan left one of his guests out to dry. He left him hanging. And that's not the act of a good man. That's not the act of a responsible man. That's the act of a useless coward. And I realize that's not Rogan's motif. But I don't have any use for somebody like that, and I don't have any use for all the people that are have been leaping into the situation and are trying to take advantage of it by attacking Milo, by dismissing Milo, and that sort of thing. I mean, you have to understand what a media hit looks like. This was a media hit, and it was a pretty effective one, because you had the left on the media combining with the cucks on the right who actually pushed this. And so, I'm not blaming. I don't think that Rogan was complicit. I'm not blaming him for any of this stuff. The hit took place a year later. But what I'm saying is that I think it would have been good. I think it would have been the right thing to do if Rogan had come out and said, "Hey, wait a minute. That's not what we were talking about. You're taking this out of context. This isn't right. This isn't fair. Knock it off." And so, you have, in my mind, you have a responsibility when you're dealing with a guest, is that you have to look out for their interests too, and you can't just say, "Oh, yeah, they were my guests and that happened on my show, but it's not my fault and I was involved," and that's not really right. And so, and Rogan can still come forward. I mean, it's not his fault. He doesn't have to, jump out there in front of the train or anything. But it would still be good to hear from him, I think. And I have to say, I'm extremely proud of the people at Castalia House and the Dread Ilk, and the people at the Vox Populi blog. I got an email from one of the guys, just as he described himself, a low-level volunteer at Castalia, and he said, "Hey, I know my opinion doesn't matter, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm totally I'm totally supportive of Milo, and I'm glad that you're taking the position that you are." And I had the privilege to compliment him by saying, "It never occurred to me to ask you guys about this, because I knew all of you were going to do the right thing. And there's one concerned troll who is saying that, I'll never buy a Castelia House book again, and that sort of thing. And I said, well, and then he was hoping that like some of our authors would leave Castelia over this and maybe self-publish or something. And I said, well, I've got bad news for you. I've heard from quite a few of our authors, and all of them have contacted me and asked me to let Milo know of their support and let him know that they hope he will join their ranks, that he will become a Castelia House author himself. And so, let me address that point, Sean. People who have big audiences, like Milo and like Mike Cernovich, have it it's very difficult. They have to time their moves because right now, Gab doesn't have enough. Doesn't have the ability to let all of Milo's followers join Gab right now. And correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, but that's it's maybe just getting to the point where they could handle Cernovich coming on board. And so, when you've got 200,000 followers, Mike's got, I think, 200,000 Twitter followers, another 63,000 on Periscope. He has a responsibility to them. He can't just, or he shouldn't just turn and walk away from them and say, hey, I'm going to get, well, you said, how come you can only get 300 viewers on YouTube? That's why. The people that are there, the 18,000 people that are there watching his Periscopes are looking for him to watch him on Periscope. They're not looking to, Cernovich gets way more than 1 to 2K on Periscope. They usually go to anywhere between 10 and 18K. I know because I was on Periscope myself, and that's who I consider to be the standard, for this type of thing. And so I think that you need to keep that in mind, that people can't just simply walk away from one platform and expect everybody to come with them. And so they have to, no, Sean, he doesn't pay for them. I know the guy. I work closely with the guy. He definitely does not do that. It's a stupid strategy. Milo doesn't, Mike doesn't, I don't. I think, actually, I should say, I think somebody, might have been Mike, but somebody once, just as a test, bought 500 followers to see if you could actually do it. But there's no point, because there's no engagement, and there's no reason to do that. The people that do that are the kind of people that are the sort of generic celebrities that need to get to a certain point before the media will pay attention to them. We all have our own platforms, and so I'm not good at this video thing. I have a face for radio, and I have a syntax for literature, and so I frankly respect your masochism in putting up with me, but the thing is that this is part of what you need to do to communicate with people in the 21st century, and so I have to do that, and so I do have elven ears. It is kind of funny. Most people don't realize that, but I'm actually like a half elf, so. But I'm not going to speak sexy Italian for a guy. It's just not happening. Okay. Although it would be kind of interesting if I did once a week. I did one of these Gap TVs in Italian instead of English. That would be kind of amazing. I'll get Piero San Giorgio on here. Anyhow. You're getting back to the Milo situation. He's been working on this alternative platform for a while, and so it's coming through. I I am going to have guests on the Darkstream once the technology permits. Right now, it's not feasible. Right now, I'm having to kind of like look over at the computer screen to see your comments, and back here, and it's this is life on the bleeding edge, so no big deal. It will improve, and definitely I'll talk to Steph. He's got some announcements. Steph is going to be working with us as well. I don't think that's a secret. Space Buddy will come on and say hi sometime. I told her that, I asked her if she wanted to have her own Gab TV, and feel like I was completely insane, and said no, absolutely not. So, but she'll pop on and say hi sometime. We've got a lot of new announcements coming soon. I don't know if you're aware, but we've significantly improved the caching on Galactic, and so as long as a page has been loaded before, it really snaps up very quickly now, even big pages like the Battle of Borodino, which is the one I like to use as a test. We just introduced. Good, I'm glad you noticed. We just introduced Galactic News. Right now, it's still more bleeding edge than this is, but it's all good, and it's working. And so, buonasera, you're up late. So it's all a start. We haven't even begun throwing all of our 14 editors at it, and so it's just going to grow faster. I'm really pleased and appreciative of the fact that I think we've had 20 new subscribers join the Burn Unit, and we'll add RSS soon. RSS is on our list. We're going to we're adding 2 SVG graphics now. Those will be coming soon. And UKV, you're up late too. Sorry about that. See, I always stay up late, so it's not a problem for me. Heck, I haven't even had my last cup of coffee for the day. Galactic press credits are coming soon. Yeah, we were actually talking about sending somebody there. That would have been kind of funny. Let's see. No, I think Milo is going to completely move on from this. When do I drink my last cup? Usually after like around 1:30 or so. Yes, the Burn Unit shirt is different. It's very cool. You'll see the logo. We have the logo going on to the site fairly soon. Talking about Galactic News, we've got some other exciting plans. We've got Rehash coming, and Rehash is what we call our version of Reddit. While we have no idea, we've actually got the whole thing working already. We don't really know what to do with it. We don't really know or care about Vote. They've got their thing going, but I haven't seen that. They're not somebody that we've worked with, like Gab. And yes, we're going to add. My son was actually complaining about the Favicon not being on IG News, so we'll do that. So we've actually got 2 good mods, 2 very experienced mods of forums or subreddits or whatever that you would recognize. I'm not going to say who they are, but they are going to be helping us really decide what we're going to do and how we're going to run Rehash. And it's going to be linked very closely to both Galactic News as well as Galactic itself. So they're going to be links to the Rehash discussions on each Galactic page, and they're also going to be linked onto each news headline, I believe, or at least there's an option to put them on news headlines. There's not really a point in doing them all. do we need tech help? We always need tech volunteers. We have a group that we call the Tech Stars, and you can get in touch with riflemen or with crew, and they will direct you to the right folks. I think we've got something like maybe 15 or 16 volunteers who are working regularly on Galactic stuff right now, and they're doing very well. And we've already got some pretty serious talent that's making things happen. But just so you understand, this is a long-term plan. Apparently crew is here. We definitely need more PHP people. So if there are PHP people, please get in touch. Let's see what else. The big thing is, and this is the big project, is we're going to be completely replacing the MediaWiki engine. It's horrible. It's really outmoded, and causes. Half our work is wrestling with it rather than just using it. And so, a fundamental part of our strategy is to replace MediaWiki and with the Don't Panic engine. And so, once we do that, that's going to create a whole new range of possibilities. Sooner or later, once we get to the point, we're going to be we'll be going after Facebook. I think that's probably why they're already blocking links to my blog. I'm pretty sure that they'll be blocking. Hey, Nim Koiser, talk about our tech stars. She just said every time I think we can finally start Don't Panic, we get IG News or Rehash or something. You don't want to just quick whip out a Facebook, Nim? So, no, we'll definitely do. We're going to leave that for later. In fact, we'll probably set up a separate organization to tackle Facebook. But there's no question that it needs to be done, and that we're probably the right people to do it. Who knows? Maybe we'll even team up with Andrew and Gab. To do that. We're looking forward to Gab getting their API so that we can start tying in some things with that. We don't pay any attention to Minds.com. Our alt tech allies are very clear. It's Gab, and it's Gab, and it's Brave, and and so there are different alternatives, just like there were a bunch of different alternatives to Twitter before, but they need to be the right kind of people. Otherwise, you're just ending up in the same situation where you get converged. Talk to me and can convince me that what they're doing is the right way to go. Then there's just no point. And some of these things are not necessarily competitors. The Galactic News is not a competitor to Drudge. It's more of an adjunct to Drudge. I didn't want something that had 50 different headlines and that had all these man bites dog and somebody does something to a chimpanzee or whatever. That's just not what we do. What we do is the news that you basically need to know, and you can get it very, very quickly. And then we're also going to be using the archive stuff. I think what we're going to do actually is provide both, because the more we looked into it, the more we realized that we really needed to have both. Are you talking about the Harambe story, or the true Harambe story? Yeah, we would have. Obviously we would put Harambe on there, but anyhow, as far as things like Snopes and stuff, there's plenty of room on Galactic for that. And so all you got to do is, be an editor, create the page, and update things. Nobody's going to stop you. Where it's going to get revolutionary, and where things are really going to take off is once we get the perspective filtering going, and that's going to be a while. But that's when we're going to seriously replace Wikipedia. This is all just early days. I mean, I don't think a lot of people understand how big our vision is. And once they do, then you'll understand why we're talking about, okay, we want to get a burn unit of 1,000 subscribers in the first year alone. We want to move up to the point where we've got 10,000 monthly subscribers delivering high quality that people are very happy with supporting. What is the vision? The vision is that we are going to replace all of the social media giants, all of them. And so we're not going to do it through the way that they did. We're not going to do it through living on other people's money and just paying no attention to what people want, paying no attention to what people do, and preying on them. What a lot of people don't realize is that the social media giants, their business is basically begging people to give them a whole bunch of money, going public, and then preying on people by gathering data about them. I don't think that is a long-term plan. I don't think that is. I think Silicon Valley is killing itself, and we have a very stable system where the people that the only people that are using it and that are paying for it are people who believe in what we're doing, and that's the way it should be. Because then, if we don't do what the burn unit wants, the burn unit can, turn off the spigots immediately. So we are answerable to them. Who is Twitter answerable to? They're not answering to their. Do you think they're paying any attention to their shareholders? They're not paying any attention to their shareholders. They're not paying attention to their users. That's just not a long-term plan. That's not. There's nothing there. There's no product there. Nothing useful is being built. I think that they're aware of alt tech. I think that they are way too arrogant and way too convinced that because they have people with money supporting them, that's all they need. I think that history is absolutely littered with companies that were in a dominant position that ceased to care about their users and failed as a result. And so, the burn unit is our monthly subscribers. They're the people that contribute anywhere from $10 to $100 a month, and they pay our server bills, and they're the true believers in the vision that we presented, and we pay a lot of attention to what they're doing or what they want us to do. We don't answer directly to them, but we certainly listen to them. Because the thing is that the reality is what you pay for is what you're going to get. And just because you're not paying for the use of Twitter doesn't mean that they're not selling you. Galactic doesn't. We will never do anything with your user data. Other than maybe analyze it in order to understand what we can do better. But we're not going to sell it to anyone else. We're not going to get in bed with the government of China or the government of Germany to try to sell you on migrants. We're not going to get in bed with the government of China. It's just ludicrous. And I would be very shocked if Soros was involved with social media in some way. I mean, the guy wants to control people, and that's certainly one efficient method for it. I mean, I'm sure that they would be very irritated and upset about alt tech, but the reality is that if it's not us, it's just the next guy. It was kind of interesting. We'll have to see how things go, but I just don't believe that. I mean, frankly, I think that the companies like Facebook and the companies like Facebook and companies like Twitter, they're going to fall. They're going to fail. We're not going to make them fail. They're going to fail themselves because they refuse to listen to. They want to control people rather than listen to how they want to use things. What draws me to the science fiction genre? That's a good question, Brittany. I don't know. I enjoyed it from the time I was a kid. I'll have to think about that more. Are you vulnerable to any attacks from the big guys when you start showing success? Yeah, of course. I mean, my dad's been in jail for 12 years. I mean, it's not like I'm not aware of the fact that the big guys in the government can swat you down pretty much anytime they want. So for me, the important thing is to make sure that the stuff that we're doing is so well distributed and decentralized that I'm irrelevant. Not to protect me, because, like I said, there's not a person on the planet, no one, not the Premier of China, not Putin, not anyone, that is, invulnerable. The only thing that is necessary is that there's somebody who hates you so much that they're willing to destroy themselves in order to ruin you. And so, how many premiers of India got wiped out by various people? But the thing that's important is to make sure that what you're doing cannot be destroyed with you. And so, Galactic is already totally beyond me. I'm the designer, but I'm no longer necessary because my design is already out there. And, all the tech stars already know what we're doing, and people that are not even involved with the project now understand what we're doing and what's happening, and they could come in and take it over tomorrow. And so and to me that's the important thing, because at the end of the day, we're here for but a short time, and we have an opportunity to build civilization, or to simply just focus on feeling good today, eating chocolate and having sex with the most attractive person who's willing to have sex with you for love or money. I'm at the age now where I want to build things. I want to do things that will last and that will make a difference in people's lives. Well beyond my lifetime. And I'm optimistic that with things like Galactic, things like Castalia House, and perhaps even some of the books that I'm writing, there's a way to do that. I don't talk about my family, but it's well known that I have a son. And so, a lot of us, I think, forget that, and we don't think about, we don't think much about our life beyond next week, paying the bills, and that sort of thing. But, like somebody said, planting trees under which you'll never sit in the shade. I think that is one of the greatest things that men can do, and that men have done. And so, that's the kind of thing that I admire. Even though I have probably never planted a plant in my life. But we can, we can all be a part of the building. Maybe you can't design a vast social media project, but you can join the burn unit, or you can become an editor and become an expert on one particular subject, or you can make sure that we clear out all the BCEs and CEs and replace them with BC and AD. So I'm being threatened with plants, and so it's another question. If you don't mind, I'll answer. The burn unit is the people who make Galactic possible by paying monthly subscriptions. You can look it up. If you go to Galactic News, you can see it says burn unit. You can click on that and it'll take you there. So the thing is that I'd encourage everybody, whether you are helping build Gab, which we support, or whether you're helping build Galactic, or whether you're helping support, the authors at Castalia House, or whether you're supporting Brave and what Brendan Ike is doing there, you're part of it. You're part of something bigger than yourself, and you're doing something that is important. And these are the things that make a difference in winning the cultural war. For 40 years, the right wing has been way too focused on politics, and have gotten nowhere. They've been betrayed time and time again. They keep voting for politicians and voting for people who will sell you out. And the thing about people is they will always let you down. I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever that if you were to subject my life to a complete vetting, many people would be disappointed and appalled and upset and betrayed. And the same thing is true of virtually everyone. I'm sure there are some people who are genuinely upset in discovering that Milo is not a squeaky clean, nice gay person. But that's not important. You can't put your faith in what people are. You can only put them in what people do going forward. And like people said, well, why do you trust? Why are you defending Milo? He's this, he's that, he's the other thing. Well, here's the thing. When I made a similar mistake, and I made a foolish decision to let someone pump me for 3 hours on the phone, it was supposed to be talking about the rabid puppies thing, and ended up pumping me about Africans in Europe. Well, suddenly, Wired magazine portrayed me as this racist white supremacist. Okay? And there were people on the right who really wanted to turn against me the way that a lot of people have been turning against Milo. And Milo just nipped that in the bud. He absolutely clamped down on it, and not just at the time, but also several months later when a story came out that supported what I was saying. Milo went out of his way to draw attention to that old interview and point out that what I was saying was a matter of fact and common knowledge in Europe. It was just something that Americans were not accustomed to. it sounded really bad to an American perspective, even though in Europe it was something that we all knew about. I was referring to these actual signs that were in the train stations. And so, I learned my lesson about talking to the media then. But more importantly, I learned that Milo was a stand-up guy who would go out of his way to help a friend and to defend a friend's reputation. And so, that's when you see people do that. When you see people, those are the people that you remember, and those are the people that you value. And so, it's important to keep in mind that that loyalty is one of the rarest and most valuable characteristics that a man can have, other than courage. So, anyhow, I think we're nearly pushing an hour, so I should probably bring this one to a close. But thanks very much for tuning in. I'm really happy that the new connection worked well. That's exciting. And so have a great evening, and we'll look forward to doing another Gab TV event soon.